All right, and hello everybody. It is currently the 19th because I can't remember anything these days. It's the 19th of February, Mod 2 2019. We're in week 1. This is our second live session. I've got some fun stuff going on today. So yesterday we did an overview of the course itself and a little bit about the week. Today we're actually going to dive into some actual designing because we're going to do a demonstration on the assignment for this week. And we'll actually talk a little bit about graphic design and what it is. The pre-recorded lecture that is on the course media page goes over that quite a bit more in detail. So if you get lost, just make sure you watch that lecture and you should be able to catch up pretty quickly. I am Melissa Kinney. I am your instructor this mod, and let us jump right in. Okay, so we will be doing a, there we go. Like I said, quick review. We'll be doing a little bit about graphic design and being a graphic designer, and then we'll do a demonstration of assignment 1, and we'll actually just go over the assessment. It's actually a quiz this week, so I obviously won't be going over too much, but just kind of briefly touching upon that. And to review from yesterday, successful students in this class, just for some tips in succeeding in the course. Make sure you watch the pre-recorded lecture and take notes. Make sure you do that first. It is approximately 2 hours long. I think she usually keeps it to like an hour and 50 minutes or hour and 55 minutes or something like that. But like I said, because it's pre-recorded, you can absolutely break it up however you need to. Take your notes, rewatch whatever you need to. And because a lot of the time that actually will make things more clear for you for when you're doing the rest of the work during the week. Watch the live sessions, whether attending. We got 3 people with us today. We have Beth, Dobby, and LaShawn. So hopefully they won't mind me picking on them a little bit today. It's always so much easier to go back and forth with the students as opposed to me just talking for an hour, because students, you guys ask really great questions, and sometimes it kind of leads to different tangents that are somewhat relevant. So it makes things a little bit more interesting. So either come on in and attend the recording, or just watch the recording afterwards, and make sure you do that before you start your work, because again, just like the pre-recorded lecture, there's going to be some information in those videos, in those recordings, that are going to actually make things more clear when you actually start your work. Check over the week's work before you get started. Kind of try to plan. Most of the students here at IU, they've got jobs, they've got kids, they've got all sorts of things going on. They maybe have kids' activities, their own activities, and you know, life can get in the way sometimes. So just try to make sure that you take a look and try to kind of judge and see how long it's going to take you to do things. Might be a little tricky this week, but you know, it's kind of just the way it works. And try to prioritize, try to plan out, you know, set aside some time to get that stuff done. Break it up however you need to. You know, I think I said yesterday, I wouldn't want to be watching 4 hours of lectures all at the same time, because I think I'd probably burn out. So, I mean, but if that's the way you work, great, that's the way you work. Check the announcements several times a week. I mean, my thing here says at least 5 times a week, and I really should change it. But just there, in addition to helpful tips and resources and whatnot, that's how I'm going to be communicating with you guys in the event that something happens to come up, and maybe I need to move a multi-session or a live session, or maybe I'm noticing that everyone is having trouble with the same aspect of an assignment, so you know, I'll post something about that. So I do try to make sure that I keep that to a minimum, because I don't want to bog everyone down. And it's actually really easy. I think it was Beth that said yesterday that she actually has her announcements set to just automatically get emailed to her. That's how I have mine set as well, and it's super easy. And it's just so much easier. Oh, and LaShawn does too. It's just so much easier than, you know, worrying about remembering to sign in to Canvas to check the announcements. So, because then it just automatically comes to you. Do the daily checkpoints. Those checkpoints, there is a minimum that you have to make sure you do and pass. They are super, super easy and quick. Little reading or a little video. Usually those things are under like 5 minutes, and then a couple of quick questions. After you've done, and passed the minimum number, anything after that is a bonus. It's all extra credits. So I think I had 2 students last mod. One had like 112% of the on the grade or something like that, and one had like 102 or whatever, because they were making sure they got all that stuff done, and then they obviously did the rest of their work. So it's just, it's an easy way to make sure that you keep it up with the points. Fully participate in the discussions. I did see a couple of the introductions, which was awesome. I had not gotten a chance to check in with the discussion itself today, but I will be doing a little bit of that tonight. And the more everyone participates and the more content that is shared, the better those discussions are. They don't feel boring. So, whatever you are able to put into it is what you can get out of it. And I've had some really great discussions in the last couple mods. Read the background information and the submission instructions carefully. I don't want to have to mark a 0 down because something wasn't submitted as the right file type. Some people don't realize that they did that, and then they end up checking a week later on their grade, and they see that I put a little note that I couldn't grade it because it was the wrong file type. I will allow an extra chance to resubmit, and as long as the first one was submitted on time, I won't deduct for late points on that, but it just is so much easier to just make sure you check those the first time around. And Beth says that there are several posts in the discussion already, which is awesome. I love it when people get a jump on everything. Number 8, watch the demos and the examples in class. On Tuesdays, I will be doing demonstrations of the assignments, so I'll be going through it step by step. And as long as you watch those demos, you shouldn't have any questions on how to do the assignments. So those are, everything is important in here. All of the lectures and the recordings are important. But if you specifically if you're having trouble on an assignment and you haven't watched the lecture, that probably is why. I do try to make sure I put in some extra tidbits here and there, maybe some keystrokes or just an easier method of how to go about doing things. So just make sure you watch those, and hopefully you won't have any problems. Submit the work on time, because I hate grading work late. Especially when it's, a fantastic, ad or poster or whatever is being submitted. I hate not being able to give full points because it wasn't on time, because it's just a silly thing. And I do know that things come up and life happens, and I have my own assignments that I occasionally have to submit late for my own online class. So believe me, I totally get it. That's just one of the extra ways you can make sure you get full points on everything. Contact the instructor, that's me, if you have any questions or if you run into problems, delays, if life happens to kick you in the butt that week. Just let me know and we'll try to work something out. Use the multi-sessions, the class coach, and the Students Success Center for SSC, for help and feedback. My multi-sessions are on Thursdays from 12:30 until 2:30 Mountain Time. So I'm available for my office hours during those 2 hours. They are set aside for my IU students. You can come in and ask questions. You can get one-on-one help and feedback. If there's something that you are confused about and we haven't been able to connect, you can't come to the multi-session, shoot me an email, a text, whatever, and I can go over it in the multi-session and set up a recording and actually post it for, maybe you're not the only one that has that question. Our class coach is Rachel Fields. I did put up her hours, I think it was this afternoon, because I had gotten her schedules yesterday about an hour before the live session, and then it slipped my mind to post that. So I made sure to get all 4 up in the announcements. The other 3 will post on weeks 2, 3, and 4. So, you're not going to get bombarded with that information. And then the SSC, you guys know probably where where to find them. Do I answer emails on Saturdays? Yeah, I mean, I pretty much try to check my email every day. Occasionally, I don't check it. You know, if for some reason you happen to email me and I haven't responded, it's very likely that I've already checked my email for that particular day, because I don't actually have my IU email on my phone. For whatever reason, I could not get, and I even talked to IT about it, I could not get it to sync with my Android. It just did not like me at all. So I have it on all 3 of my computers here, so that no matter where I am in the house, I can check it at least once during the day. But yeah, as long as, you know, if for some reason, LaShawn, you get stuck and you've emailed me and you're not hearing from me, you can shoot me a text, because I do always have my phone on me. So, and if I don't, it's because I put it down in the other room. But I'm definitely likely to get that if I haven't messaged you. You are very welcome. Not a problem at all. I made sure to do that because I couldn't get my stupid email on my phone. I was very aggravated about that. And then the last thing, just start your week's work early and pace yourself so you don't get burned out. You know, it's whether it's school or actually in the professional design field, it can get really easy to get burned out, especially when you're kind of lacking on inspiration. So sometimes it's really a lot easier to kind of break it up. I know that I do get into grooves sometimes where I don't want anyone to like come near me for like 4 hours. And if that's the way that it works, that's the way that it works for you, and awesome. But just to make sure that you you don't end up getting stuck. We have some comments here. Great to know. Lisa hung up on me for 3 hours. So, oh, your computer got stuck on you for 3 hours, or the software? Was it, which one was it, LaShawn, that was having problem? It was InDesign? Okay. Are you running off of one of the IU laptops? Or is it a different machine that you have? Yeah, to end up restarting it. Okay. If you're finding you're having consistent problems with that, let me know and I can send you to one of the deans, because he's actually in charge of a lot of the Adobe stuff. There might be something wrong. You know, maybe you've got kind of a funky corrupt version or something, and we can get it reinstalled on there. Reinstalling is pretty easy, but I don't know if there's a specific way that you guys would need to go through it. So definitely keep me updated if you are finding you're having consistent problems with that. We want to make sure we get that fixed for you. Yeah, no problem. Not a problem at all. So just to review from yesterday as well, there are 4 hours total a week of lectures. Sounds like a lot, but I promise you it's not. Just the one pre-recorded session, which is 2 hours, that's the one that's your meat and potatoes of the content. That's going to help with everything, not only in the class, but pretty much in your entire design career, it's going to help. Break it up if you need to. Watch 20 minutes here, watch an hour and a half here, whatever you got to do. Take your notes so that you know you can flip back on them, and you know, so you have an idea of what you're doing. The live sessions, I like to do the 1 hour each. You know, the 2 each week, 1 hour each, because I feel like it is a little easier to kind of take in everything as opposed to having 2 hours where I talk. I would have no problem with that if I was informed by a number of students that they preferred the 2 hour session. I'd have no problem doing that. But I think, you know, until I hear otherwise, I think that most of my students just prefer that, you know, it's a little bit easier to carve out, you know, a 1 hour chunk of time as opposed to 2 hours. So on Mondays, we'll go over an overview for the week. I'll give you a few tips. We'll go through some critiques. And starting next week, we'll actually look at everyone's, or not everyone's, we'll look at some of the submissions. And I have a disclaimer that I typically post shortly beforehand. If you're not comfortable with me going over your assignment, you can just shoot me a message and I can set yours aside. I always make sure to rename all of the files so that they are anonymous, so you don't have to worry about that. You know, I like to try to make sure that I provide, you know, positive feedback as well as criticism to make sure that everyone is learning. I have even learned from some of the critiques that I've actually done from some of my students, and have kind of tucked away those ideas in the back of my head because you know, I've seen some really awesome stuff. And then on Tuesdays, we'll go over the assignments in detail and we'll do those demos. And we have a couple of people here that said that you like the way the class is set up. So good. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, so let's dive into the actual content, the subject matter of this week. What is graphic design? So graphic design is essentially, for those of you that did watch the lecture from yesterday, it's essentially communicating a message to a specific audience, and you're using typically text and imagery of some sort. Lots of different mediums. So you can see right here we have a digital billboard and we have some packaging, which I thought this packaging was really neat when I found it, simply because it kind of has a little cutout there, which is very different. And so the designer not only took, you know, imagery and design elements with the typography in mind, but also actually took the shape in mind. They obviously had a different concept in mind when they were putting together this particular packaging. So some different examples of graphic design, identities such as logos and branding. You know, everybody knows that Target, for example, has, you know, the red and white bullseye. Everything they have is red and white. Starbucks is green and white, and they have that little mermaid, whatever it is there. Dunkin' Donuts, for actually, I don't even know if out in the West Coast, if you guys have a lot of Dunkin' Donuts, it's huge out here. I know that the further south you go, there aren't very few. I mean, excuse me, there aren't as many, but Dunkin' Donuts is like a brown and a orange and pink, and they have the double D's there. So that's really big. Publications such as magazines, textbooks, newspapers, novels, print advertisements, posters, and billboards, even if the billboards are digital. Website graphics and elements, which is huge these days, obviously. Signage, product packaging, like our lovely honey bottles over here, and tons more. So graphic design goes beyond advertising, from road signs to technical schematics, from inter-office memos to reference manuals. Graphic design enhances the transfer of knowledge and visual messages. And I have noticed in my master's class, I have had several textbooks that I've had to purchase, and I have had a very difficult time reading them and actually absorbing the information, and I know it was because of the way that it was laid out. Same thing, I am sure if we get, you know, lots of, you know, instruction manuals and whatnot for your kids' toys, or maybe a piece of workout equipment or something, if it's not written properly, you can't assemble the damn thing. And that can be really tricky. And that is partially, you know, due to the content given to the designers, and partially because of the designer that did it, not necessarily considering how it was going to be utilized. Amen to that. the instructions, not being able to read them there, Beth. My husband and I had a swing set we were trying to put together for my kids last year, and the thing is huge, and the poor thing was trying to match something up. We found out we had a giant piece of slide that wasn't right, and the instructions were not helping. We ended up having to go through and like have something replaced. I don't know. It was a big, huge mess. But anyways, readability and legibility is enhanced by improving the visual presentation and the layout of the text. Taken from Wikipedia, but it's fairly accurate. Again, some examples: education, such as textbooks and handouts; entertainment, like my man Hugh Jackman down here, love him; websites, web design, publications, books, magazines. Can you guys, any of this? Yes, swing set construction absolutely does suck. Oh, I'm going to be laughing about that for the rest of the night. Can the three of you guys, can any of you come up with any other ideas of where you may have seen graphic design? Oh, excuse me. On pop cans? Absolutely. So like other commercials? Yep, absolutely. I mean, it's just everywhere. I go, drive down the highway and I see, things on vans and, the sign, just like the one-way sign right here, the signage indicating different exits and what might be going, oh God, I just lost my train of thought there. Different exits and the scenic stops, there we go, that you might have off of the highway. Menus and decor in restaurants, yep, and you are a week ahead of us there, LaShawn, because we're going to be talking about menus in the, actually, was it the menu? Actually, wait a minute. Now that I am thinking about it. Yes, okay, so I was right. Next week's discussion is on menu design. It is everywhere you look. It really is, because it is just, all about communicating. So the different programs that we'll be using in this particular mod, we've got Adobe Photoshop, which is graphics and photo editing program developed by Adobe. Wonderful Adobe. And it is pixel-based. A pixel-based raster program. So you will actually find raster images. They're made up of those pixels, the little square things, and that combines to consist of the image's resolution. My God, I'm having a hard time tonight. And but that is why when you zoom in on a raster image, a bitmap image. Oh, bitmap images. I have a redundant word in there when I need to fix. But that's why when you zoom into those, or when you stretch those images out, that's why they get really blurry, because there's a fixed number of pixels in those images and they can't scale well. However, with Illustrator, that's completely different. On the left-hand side, you'll see here, that's a raster image. On the right-hand side, that would be a vector image. Vector images use a mathematical algorithm to scale their information on an exponential scale. You can scale it all the way to 300 feet or down to a half an inch. It's not going to lose any clarity, which is really awesome. So the Illustrator is the vector-based graphics program from Adobe for that. It's very, very commonly used for logo creation and sometimes some layout. Mainly InDesign is the one that uses the layout. That's a desktop publishing program, and you use that a lot for layouts, especially when there's a lot of text. You can actually import Photoshop and Illustrator files into InDesign. You can import PDFs and JPEGs and TIFFs and all sorts of different things. You can't edit them in that program, but you can import them, and they're essentially linked until you actually embed those images into the program. So we are this week talking about the principles of design. The basic elements of design are contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. I think Beth was the one that mentioned yesterday the CRAP, crap. And the way that I like to remember it is that if I don't follow those basic elements of design, that's what I'm going to end up with. And I don't want my designs to look like crap. So contrast, the letter C, ultimately means change, which you have the change of size, color, direction, typeface, weight. It focuses your eye or the reader's eye on an individual aspect. So for example, we have the color down here. Your eye jumps right down to the yellow, and I'm pretty sure the reason why I picked that one out was because when it shows up, this slide, that's right where my eye goes right to, because that's the only yellow piece in this entire block here. We have, a change in position where everything here is lined up except for this third to last item. All of these squares are the same size except for this large one. We have texture, shape, orientation. This one's at kind of a funky angle. So all of these, they have, one difference, and that's where your eye jumps to when you see composition. Repetition represents consistency. That gives a cohesion, a unity to a layout and to a composition. So you repeat elements so that it kind of flows through the entire layout. You can use repetition through typeface, sizes, colors, shapes, leading, all sorts of different things. That creates a unity within the design. Can any of you maybe pick out an individual item in here, or maybe an area where you see repetition in this particular slide? The shapes, yep, we have these like trapezoidal kind of shapes. The diagonal, yep, the angle absolutely is repeated throughout the entire thing. Not only we have it, coming, going down right to left here, but then it kind of switches left to right and then goes back right to left here. The poles. I'm not sure what you mean, Beth. The poles. I'm just not sure what you mean. Okay, yes, the blocks of words. I'm sorry. Yeah, we have the different blocks of words. They're kind of set up the same, where they have the thick line on top and bottom, kind of bordering it in, and the font you can see is kind of similar. We have the same size here as we do here, and even though this size right here is not the same as on the left-hand page, the setup is the same. It's all left justified. We even have the colors. Oh, actually, Beth had said the colors as well. The yellows, the pinks, the light gray here, the light teal. So it kind of flows right through the design. It kind of, brings your eye right through it. Oh, goodness, sorry, double click there. I learned that word in the InDesign class. It looks like I need to take it then. The principles of design for the letter A is alignment, and alignment is important because it kind of gives a sense of organization to your layouts. It also provides balance, so it allows you to arrange elements in a way that matches how the people scan the page. It helps, like I said, balance your image and creates a visual connection. So you have, for example, these three items that are all aligned within the center here and the center here. These are the vertical centers. Excuse me, wait a minute. Aligned horizontal centers. I might actually have that different, but I actually might have that wrong. I'm going to have to double check that. Let me, I'm going to pull up my InDesign real quick. I want to make sure that I actually have that right. Now I'm second guessing myself because I just redid this slide yesterday, and I want to make sure that I have that right. Align horizontal centers. No, I do actually have that right. Okay, good. So then actually these are some different kinds of different examples of alignment. We have the center just like we did in the previous slide. We have our edge, it's abutting the edge right here. And visual, this is actually kind of a funny one that sometimes as a designer, you might end up needing to kind of take a liberty in doing this. According to InDesign, this would be properly aligned because we have our little swoosh here that is aligned with the text. But if you were to take that line away, it wouldn't look aligned. This is more of a visual alignment where by nudging this over slightly, it actually looks like it's more aligned. Now we have polls of text, the text that makes what they both. Yes, exactly. I absolutely understand where that's coming from now. The polls, the lines of text. Moving on to P, proximity. This principle says that related items should be grouped together so they are viewed as a group. So, for example, the business card over here on the left, despite the fact that each one of these items, it absolutely makes sense that they are broken up like that, because this is a street, this is a town, this is a phone number, this is a website. It doesn't read as well, especially, you know, let's say, for example, if, let's see, where's my white? Let's say, for example, something happened over here, we had a smudge, and all of a sudden we have no idea what the heck Happyville is. So it makes a lot more sense to kind of have everything located together. So even though we have, you know, some white space on the left hand side here, utilizing the principle of proximity, these are all joined together, and you know that this is a street name and then this is a town. You know, same thing, the phone number and the website we don't necessarily need together, but it does still make logical sense. No, negative space is not bad. It absolutely is not, especially if it's utilized correctly. It can actually add a huge amount of balance to a particular design. Okay. So for proximity, here are some examples. We have, you know, this little image right in here, which, because it's kind of grouped right on top of this larger image, you can kind of tell this is an interior shot, and it most likely is an interior shot of this building, as opposed to an interior shot of, you know, a skyscraper or something. You can tell that they're related. Right over here in the poster of sorts, despite the fact that it's not in English, you can see that they've actually grouped information together, and they actually have a little bit of leading or extra leading in between these areas, because they were trying to group related items together. Okay, sometimes you actually might see as well in like magazines and things like that, you might see an inset like this, but instead of it being a photo, you might actually see some kind of caption that would be actually related to the photo, and by placing it close to the photo, you know that it's related. So, principles of design. Can we come up with any example of contrast in this poster here, or this advertisement here? Well, I am running out of time. Dark and light colors, yep, absolutely. The black against the orange, or the black against the white, or the black against the yellow for that matter. We have actually some contrast as well, using the large text right here, and then the smaller text right here. So we have, you know, this would be like, you know, directed by, or you know, starring, whatnot. And then the names are emphasized a little bit more. We also actually have a little bit of contrast in the little windows here, where we have these longer windows, or maybe they were just supposed to be lights, I'm not sure. And then all the little guys. How about, there we go. How about for repetition? Yes, that is a cityscape. And yeah, the different shapes, LaShawn, like, yep, like I had mentioned. The stars, yep, we have repetition in the stars, even though they're not identical, because you can tell like this one has some extra points in it as opposed to this one right here. The buildings and the stars, yeah, the buildings, they all are pretty similar, where you have the square windows, rectangular looking shapes. The colors are consistent for all the different fonts. Perfect. Yep, repetition that way too. Yep, exactly. And okay, how about alignment? Any idea for alignment? Centered, yep, absolutely. We have this light bulb that is actually centered right over the text. And if you notice, by this light bulb kind of hanging down, it automatically brings your eye right down to the text, the message that's in here. Yep, the fonts are, it's funny because we've actually got a kind of a couple of different alignments within the type here. The dark, actually let me bring my annotation tool up again. Here. So we have the dark city is actually aligned over this whole block of text. And then within the text, this text is all left justified. And then this text, sorry, this text is right justified. But you notice how it all, the heading is centered. Yes, it is, LaShawn. Yep, it's centered over that, what I have now made a pink box. So you notice how they are, you know, we have several different kinds of alignment in here, but it's still very organized. So it makes it very easy to read. Okay, and proximity, that's our last one. Proximity, anybody? You guys are doing awesome, by the way. Image with the text. Yes, the text is grouped together and the image is grouped together as well. Absolutely. So we have, let me actually back up. Ooh, I like the play off the light bulb with the city. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these different things there are a lot of really great things happening in this particular image. The dark city, right? It does play off the name very, very well. We have the little lights inside the building. The darkness of the background kind of indicates that it's, you know, in the middle of night. We have proximity. We have these stars that are kind of placed, you know, some of them are placed near each other, some of them aren't. What I like to do is I like to think to myself, you know, if one of them was missing, would it look off balance? You know, if we were, for example, to do this. And actually, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do this. If we were to cover it up, you know, it looks like something's missing from that. We need an extra star there. You know, maybe it would look right if we put it up here, but then I feel like, I don't know, I feel it would be off balance. Let me actually go back to your comments here. The image with the text. Okay, so we have, yes, we have the dark city is nice and close to the light bulb. So yeah, we have that relation. And then we have, you know, the people that were in this particular film, you know, all kind of grouped together. We don't have Alex's name up here and Rufus's name down here and Richard's name up here. They're all together because they kind of all, you know, they all go together. They're the ones that pulled this item together. This is wonderful being able to go back and forth. This is the first mod I've had so many students in at the same time, so that's great. So we have today, we're gonna move on a little bit here. For our secret question, LaShawn, you weren't in yesterday, but I don't know if you maybe watched the live session from yesterday. For our secret questions in my mod, I started this last mod. It seemed to work out pretty well. I'm going to have a secret question for each live session, and if you email me the answer to the secret question, you can choose either to have 5 points extra put on an assignment or a 2-day extension. So today's question is, what kind of dog do I have? And yes, those are my feet, and yes, those are his feet. He's not enormous, but his feet are. Poodle, Beth, that was awesome. Yes, I have a poodle. I have a standard poodle named Chewy, and he's my buddy. He became Chewy when we got him because he looked like a Wookiee, but he totally doesn't when he gets groomed. But he's my buddy, so you might hear him every once in a while come down here during my live sessions. So Labradoodle, and you know what's funny? We actually got approached by a Labradoodle breeder today, so we might actually be working with that. So we have a little under 15 minutes We might end up going over a couple of minutes, but we'll see, because I do want to make sure that we get through our demo here. So, oh goodness, what is this? Encore opened up, and I was not looking to open up Encore. So there we go, that's better. Okay, I am going to actually change my share real quick, because we're going to be, you know what, actually, yeah, I'll move this over, because that is where my InDesign is. New share. Okay, so for our assignment this week, because we went over the discussion yesterday, you guys are going to be making flashcards, and you're going to be downloading this document right here, taking a look at this information. There we go, opened up over here. And you're going to have 10 graphic design eras to pick from. You only need to do 3, so don't freak out. Pick 3 that you are interested in. Do a little bit of research on them. These are some resources that you can use. You are not restricted to them by any means. There are a lot, there's a lot of information out there. Thank you very much, Beth. That is my logo for my business. So I have spiders everywhere. So like I said, you can absolutely go online and find other resources to find information on these eras. We're going to work on grunge just to start out with today. And you are going to be making double-sided flashcards. These are the benchmarks. These are the examples of the flashcards from previous students, just to get an idea. And you're going to have an image, and you're going to have some key information. This information, what you need, is listed right up here at the prompt. The name of the era, typical date or a time span, the image or an image that represents the era. If there is a name of the piece or an artist, the designer, please put that. And then a minimum of 50 words, kind of giving some characteristics of the era's design style. And then a contemporary design application for it. So what kind of client might use that today? So, for example, this particular one was for a Victorian, and they said the design made in this style would be good for an advertisement for a women's clothing company because it feels fancy. That seems absolutely appropriate. On the back, you're going to be providing a color palette for the image or for the era. And then this one actually doesn't show it. Yes, this one doesn't show it, but you're actually going to be on the back as well, putting your citations for the content, trying to arrange them in a manner that is conducive to the color palette. So for example, this would have been, where is my, I definitely need to make sure that I mention that we need, we need some examples with there we go, with citations on them. So for example, if we were to use this particular one, we could put the citation right down here. Let me see if we go down here, maybe this particular citation we would want to have, right justified against this yellow block. I don't know. No idea how I would have arranged this one. But this is where some of your creativity is going to start coming in handy. You're going to be making those design choices. And I need to get rid of that name now. My annotate tool, clear, there we go. And so that's the first benchmark. We have another one right down here. So this individual chose a psychedelic era, and they used a font that was kind of similar to something they might find from the psychedelic era, and then did a very interesting color palette. Again, here they liked to play with some of the different fonts to try to get a better feel for that era. So they have another one here. They actually also used a little bit of color to work in some contrast. So we're going to be trying to make, trying to keep those design principles in mind. You want to try to utilize some contrast, some repetition, some alignment, and some proximity. And yes, you will be making 3 different flashcards. The front will have the image with that information from the prompt, and the back will have the color palette. And so we have, like, for example, this one has the psychedelic era 1 and 2, and then the arts and crafts era 1 and 2, and then heroic realism that was the 3rd one they decided to do, 1 and 2. So, you know, you can arrange your color palette however you'd like. Try to stay away from giving it, giving the colors outlines, because we want to see how the colors are going to work with each other, how they are going to be juxtaposed next to each other. Okay. And we're going to go scroll back up here real quick. So your size, we're going to do 5 by 7, and I don't care if you do 5 wide. You're actually going to be using InDesign. That's actually what we were just we're kind of getting to that point at this, excuse me, getting to that information right now. We're going to be, oh no, don't worry about it. Not a problem at all. So 5 by 7, I don't care if you do 5 by 7, 5 wide by 7 tall, or if you do 7 wide by 5 tall, it doesn't matter. We're gonna do, just for this particular demo, apparently I didn't shut that particular project down. So we're gonna go, and this is in InDesign, just to reiterate, make sure you change your units to inches. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a file that's not the right size. I'm going to do 7 wide by 5 tall. And you can actually set this right off the bat if you'd like. So it would, whoops, it would be 6 pages. I don't want to do facing pages, just for my own. Oh, you know what? I didn't even hit close. I didn't hit create. Whoops. Let's try that one again, Melissa. 7 by 5. 6. Margins are okay, so I am going to have, if I zoom out, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You can do facing pages if you would like, so you have 1 here and 1 here. That is absolutely fine. That's, you know, it's absolutely at your discretion. I am going to save this right off the bat. No, you do not need a bleed. Nothing that we do in this particular course needs a bleed, because a lot of this stuff is just digital. So very good question. I have already, I copied right off of the page, right here. This is your file naming convention, so I just copied it and put it right in here. I'm going to put my first and my last name, and boom. I cannot emphasize how important it is to save constantly. So I am going to look up some grunge images. Grunge era. Oops, and I do have to make sure that I put graphic design, because they are, that is definitely different. Nope, you're going to end up sending, it says it right here, you're going to export your file as a PDF, and that's what you're going to send. I can't open zip files in Canvas. I can't open Photoshop files, Word files. Actually, for Word files, I might be able to open. But pretty much all of the submissions are going to require either PDFs or JPEGs, I believe. So just make sure, and each assignment actually has this information right at the bottom, so you'll know which ones to do what. I am going to pick, let's see, I'm going to go with, no, because that has 3. I don't want that. I just want 1. I'm just going to go with 1. There we go. This one looks good. And I am going to, while I am looking at this, I am going to copy Where's my InDesign? And I am going to make my text box and put my website right in there. That's going to be in APA format. So make sure, oops. So make sure you do that. But now I've already put it on that page so I can remember I need to do that. And I am going to just put some text in there just to hold it real quick. Go back in here. Oops. And save my image just on my desktop so that I can import it into, here we go, into InDesign, which is a really horrible image, but that's okay. And normally I would, actually, you know what, I think I'm actually going to change the orientation. There we go. I like that better. And this is completely up to you how you want to do it. Okay, so I've got my image. I'm going to put my information right in here. And I think because I have this image centered, I think I'm actually going to pretty much center align most of my information too. Okay, and I think what I like to do with all of my own work, this is completely up to you whether you guys want to do this or not. Where is the information? Here we go. What I like to do is I actually like to copy and paste all the text copy that needs to be included. I do this with a lot of my jobs. That way I can make sure to remember everything, and then I kind of delete it as I go. So you do that too. It's so easy, LaShawn, to do that. And then you make sure that you don't miss anything. How did you get both sides of the text box to move at the same time? I actually pressed the Alt key, which would be the Option key, I think, for you guys on Macs. By doing this, like there. Yep. Comes in handy. Definitely comes in handy. So I actually, before class, I kind of picked up a couple of different fonts that I thought might work. So I'm going to just copy and paste these in here just so I know them. And I am going to make this one my Urban Jungle here. I actually have a font site that I'm going to show you guys real quick. Oops. There we go. Grunge era. And, you know, we'll go, obviously this is not the dates. Oh, this is the problem with some of the free fonts though, because they like to put in their little like annoying watermarks, but you know, it is what it is. So you know what, we're going to change that one to Impact. And no, we're not. No, we're not, because I don't like it. I like that better. And I'm going to bring that in just a little bit. So obviously this this data is not right. This information is not right. But I like to just try to make sure that I get as much done in the demo as possible for you guys. So I just kind of put placeholder text. Your InDesign looks so different from mine. It may for a couple of reasons. I do have 2019, but I hate the dark interface because I've been using this for so long. I've been using these programs for so long that I got used to the light interface, and the dark interface for me is very, it's very distracting. And then in addition to that, I have set up different workspaces. So, you know, I have my various Dockers that I keep out. Let me see, I can actually, let's go. Let's do that. Does that look a little bit more, actually no, because these things are open. Does that look a little bit more similar, or is it really just the color? Nope. Okay, well, let's see, let's do one more. Let's try this one. How about that? Does that look at all Similar? No, maybe. Under Essentials. Like just like that? Yeah. So essentially, what I have done over the years is I have figured out what works best for me, where the different tools are. I like having a lot of the tools up top. I have certain dockers that I use constantly, and so I know where I like to have them arranged. And as a result, I've created a little workspace for myself. You can actually do that under New Workspace. You can save that, and you know, so it's especially when things aren't going correctly, you just go right into the workspace, and you know, everything will kind of reset itself. Part of it is also the resolution is different. Mine is zoomed in a lot more. It might be maybe the resolution of our screens that could be very different. And that, you know, that ends up helping you a lot though when, you know, when you're working on different machines. If you end up working on a PC at, you know, you're waiting on new glasses, that could totally have something to do with it too. But yeah, different machines can potentially have, you know, they might look different. Different versions, you know, might look different. But so especially if you kind of customize it the way that you like it. I've never actually tried to see if I could export my workspace and then bring it into a different version. That's possible. So that's definitely something I could look into and see if that's something that we could do. So yep, no problem. I have no problem explaining. This is why I like having the students in my class instead of me just babbling on for an hour. So just to move along just a little bit, we have so we have the name of the era, we have a fake date, we've done the picture of the design piece, so we're actually going to get rid of those right here. Title of the design piece, I don't know if there was one, so let's go take a look real quick. It doesn't look like this one is specifically, I'd have to read into this further, but it doesn't look like this one is specifically mentioning what the name of it is, but the designer was David Carson. Okay. And I'm going to actually change the leading on this a little bit because I don't like how far away those lines are. Okay, but you see how I started out by making it center aligned, and then I actually, oops, I don't need that date in there. And then I started doing, you know, a little bit different stuff. We have a minimum of 50 words. I am going to pretend that I am putting a minimum of 50 words in here. Minimum of 50 words. Just as placeholder text. Oops. Just as placeholder text, so you guys can get an idea of what it would look like if I actually was putting information down. Because I don't want to be giving you guys the answers. And yes, this is left justified over here. Okay. So we have those three things, and then a contemporary style. Let's see. Contemporary style. I don't know. Feature of Rolling Stone magazine. You know what? Yeah. You know what? Let me actually do this. Cover story. A Rolling Stone magazine featuring Green Day. Why not? But now that makes it a little bit difficult to read, so I'm actually going to increase the leading between some of these. So you see how it kind of breaks it up, that, you know, it gives it some contrast there. And I think I'm actually going to underline this right here. Oh, believe me, Beth, I could do so much more with this, and I'm already over this because I already don't care for this, but you know, that I could probably tweak this for an hour and still not be happy. But so here is an example of, you know, what you could do to start out for your project, for your flashcards, where I'm actually going to copy and paste this right down below here, just so I can pull together some swatches very quickly. And see. Now there's kind of a fun tool in here. You can use the eyedropper tool and just pick individual colors if you want. There's also the color theme tool, which if you actually select that and then hold on, it actually gives you all of the different colors that are in, or it gives you a number of different colors that are in your image. You can actually add it to your swatches just like that. Bingo. Oh, actually it looks like I had accidentally added it twice. So I can actually go through here and not use the stroke because I said to not use the stroke. There we go. And I have got, let's see, I'm going to put that one in the background, I think. And maybe take this guy, bring it down here. You know, so we have, you know, a kind of, oh, there we go. I'm going to put that up there. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to leave it down there. Do I use the colors tool? I personally don't, but that is completely up to you. And if anybody wanted to, you know, share how that tool is used, I've actually, like I said, I've actually never used it before. These are, you know, everybody, is there a limit on the colors? No, there's not a limit on the colors. You can use as many as you want. It's funny because the Adobe even developers, I'm sure, don't know all of the different tools. I've never used the color tool, so I actually don't know how it works. But if that works for you, that is absolutely fine. Oh, and I missed a comment here. Sorry, LaShawn. Am I increasing the leading so that you only have to have one big text box? That is simply what I was doing. However, you do not need to do that. If you would prefer to do something like this, where you can manipulate it a little bit differently, that is absolutely fine. There are plenty of layouts that I create that sometimes creating multiple text boxes is actually easier to go in and edit after the fact. I just knew right off the top of my head that I would be able to adjust this as is within that one box. But that is completely up to you. If it's easier for you to create a couple of different text boxes to get your effect, absolutely okay. Absolutely okay. So we're going to, okay, I thought there was, yes, I mean, and that was what I was doing just because I knew that, I knew kind of where I was going with it, you know, but whatever is easier for you, that is, you know, that you think kind of works with the design principles. Now we're also going to pretend that this is in APA format because I think that this one is cool. I'm just going to double check real quick before I confuse anybody. Research, actually it does not say it needs to be in APA format, so I'm glad I checked. So you can just put the websites on there. And this is your rubric, by the way. This is the rubric for this particular assignment. So you can scroll right down and make sure that you have everything there. All right, so I would probably, like, let's say, for example, maybe put one right there and one right there, maybe. I don't know, but you know, try to keep it readable, and actually impact on that particular scale is not really readable. So I would have to kind of play around with that a little bit. So once you have done 3 of these, you know, and like I said, I could tweak this probably for an hour and still not be happy for it. You're going to export it with using your file name as a PDF. Okay. Make sure that you have all, oh, there's overset text. That's because, there we go. This is, there we go. The overset text was the little red box there. Okay. Make sure that you have all of your pages selected so you're not just giving me one flashcard by accident. Oh, I overset text on these pages. It's probably my other text box. For goodness sake. You know, I hate it when things go wrong during a demo because I don't want to confuse everybody. There we go. Oh, okay. Well, this is because the Urban Jungle font has a licensing restriction. You can get around that by converting everything to outlines or just deleting the text that you have that has it in there. But shush, I didn't tell you that. Okay, there we go. My goodness, that only took 6 damn tries. So when you upload, yeah, lips are sealed. So now we have, if you notice up here, we have 1 of 6. This is the first page. This is the second page. So if you did facing pages, it would be showing up back to back. I do want to make sure that I show you guys because I know I am over a little bit here. I want to go about there. There we go. This is one of my favorite font resources, defont.com. And I don't remember if I already put the font resource announcement up. If I didn't, it will be up very, very soon. And we have defont.com. You can use the Adobe fonts. There's another link that I think I had in that particular site that has like a whole mess of other fonts. Font search engine kind of things. This one happens to be free like 99% of the time. I love the fact that you can, it has a whole bunch of categories up top here. So you can really, you know, take a look. You know, I was looking earlier for kind of a handwritten kind of grungy look, and I really couldn't find, these were all a little bit too pretty for what I was kind of looking for. I mean, maybe something like that could work, but they really just kind of weren't doing it for me. So I said, all right, well, forget that. Let me try something different. So I went to trash, which definitely gave me more of a scratchy kind of feeling, which is what I was looking for. So especially like this Ragnar one, I just thought that was really kind of neat. You know, if you're doing the Victorian era, you might want to look at something really kind of fancy and curly. Let's see. Oh, actually, before I even go to Victorian, let's see. See, now these actually would also be really good. Oh, they're Urban Jungle. That's obviously where I got this one. These kind of have like a distressed look to it. So I'm just trying to think. Fancy. Let's see. We want to find something pretty. Various sans serif. Calligraphy might. Yeah, no, they're not as. Actually, this one might work well. A lot of these are becoming really popular in like Pinterest kind of stuff. So they have a more modern feel to it. Actually, this Carlina script, however the heck you pronounce that, is actually nice. Actually, this probably would work really well for something Victorian. But whatever you decide to do, whatever font you end up deciding to go with, you can actually type in your text up here. So if I wanted to do David Carson, I can actually preview it. And all those fonts actually shows me what it's going to look like. You know, so that's just a huge thing for me, especially when you're trying to match stuff up. It's really, really helpful. So that is something that you can play around with in your flashcards. You can maybe I wanted to actually make this a green. Well, you know what? That's it's not really dark enough for me. Ooh, you know what? Maybe. Yeah, there we go. Instead of using the green, I do like like a brown or something for a little bit more contrast. Oh, no problem, Beth. You are very welcome for adding that website to your repertoire, because I'm going to be providing other things during the mod. LaShawn asks, after you download it, how do you add it to InDesign? So what you would do, do you guys, because I'm on a PC. So after I download a font, we'll just pick something real quick. I am on a PC, so what I would end up needing to do is extracting it. I think you guys end up unzipping it, I think is what you guys need to do. And then what I would end up doing is I right click. Nope, I'm not in the extracted folder, that's why. So I would actually right click on the font file and I would click install, and that would go right to my control panel fonts. I believe, do you guys have any type of font manager in yours? Because I actually don't even know what you guys are given in your laptops. Because that might be one way you might end up, just right clicking it. You also might end up just being able to, if you actually double click on the font file itself, it typically has this little install button. But you know what, LaShawn, I'll look into that for you and actually put an announcement on that, how you would do that on, my goodness gracious, I haven't even had dinner yet. I'll actually take a look and see what they says. You can start, yeah, I'm actually willing to bet that you could probably even find that on Adobe's website. Ask Siri, yeah. She probably would be able to give you great instructions. But yeah, that's good for me to know too anyways though. And so I'll take a look and I'll put up, whether it's a YouTube link or, written instructions or whatever on how to do that. So, so we're quite a bit over, but I just want to make sure that I get to one more thing for you guys. For your assignment, because like I mentioned yesterday, that the assessments are essentially tests. I can't go over how to do them, but they are the assessment this week. Oh, wait a minute, where is it? Yeah, assessment, okay. It is a quiz, and so it just has a handful of questions, not a lot. You just got to make sure that you do the readings and watch the videos. And this information, I believe it actually changes per student too, so it's not like everybody has the exact same questions, I don't think. But it'll be on the information in that course media. So just make sure that you go through that stuff and you should be good. Do you guys have any questions so far on anything that we have done today or anything that you'll be doing this week? All right, we have a no from Dobby, a no from LaShawn, and a no from Beth. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming in and going back and forth with me, because like I said, it's so much easier and less monotonous when I don't have to just talk for an hour. I will be in the Zoom room on Thursday for 2 hours for anybody that needs any help. So I hope you guys all have a great night, and thank you again for coming on in. You too, Dobby. Have a good one.